Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. And today on the channel I'm going to be talking about the brand new mystery comedy film called Vengeance. This film was directed by B.J. Novak, and you know him from starring in The Office, and he also did some episodes for The Office and also The Mindy Project as well. But before I get into my thoughts on this new film, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, give the video a like, comment below your thoughts, and also turn the notification bell so you never miss any review or any video I ever post. And now without further ado, let's get into my thoughts on this brand new film. A radio host from New York City attempts to solve the murder of a girl he hooked up with and travels down south to investigate the circumstances of her death and discover what happened to her. The film stars Dove Cameron, Ashton Kutcher, Leo Tipton, Boyd Holbrook, B.J. Novak, Issa Rae, Eli Bickle, and Isabella Amara. Upon seeing the trailers for Vengeance in theaters a couple times and also through some YouTube ads, I really wasn't excited for this movie. It looked kind of dry to me. It didn't really look like something that I would really be interested in. But after watching a few YouTube reviews, and also my friend went to go check this movie out and said it was pretty good, so I was like, oh, what the heck? I'll go check it out and, maybe I'll be surprised. And surprised I was. I went to go see this movie on a Sunday night at 7:30, and sadly, I was the only one in the theater. But you know what? Sometimes it's just great to have a movie by yourself and you don't have to worry about anybody else in the audience. And the movie starts out with having the Red Solo Cup song. So you know what? I was the only one in the theater, so I decided, what the heck? I'm just going to sing out loud. There's nobody in the theater and clap along to the music. And I had a really good time with this film. The film opens up with Ben, played by B.J. Novak, and he's talking to this guy, and he really talks about the world's problems here. He talks about how we don't go to theaters anymore. We don't watch TV live. When we do texting, we're very choosy about it. It's not like a real live conversation. He mentions about how you'll send a text and then somebody can just choose to respond whenever the heck they want. They can respond days later. You're not having a live conversation. Then he also talks about relationships, not committing to relationships, how we are hooking up with people and not really just taking the time to really want to commit to anything. We're just exercising our options. And then we also find out that Ben's character, he wants to be a podcaster. He is a writer and he wants to do good and he wants to talk about different topics that he really feels that are important. And later that night, he ends up sleeping with another girl and he gets a mysterious phone call from an unknown caller. And this person on the phone is really hysterical and saying that his girlfriend died and he's really confused and he doesn't know what he's talking about. And then he says her name and where she's at, and she's located in Texas and she has passed away, and they basically are trying to invite him out to the funeral. So he goes out, flies out to Texas, goes to this funeral, and it's very interesting because the family thinks that he was her boyfriend and he only hooked up with her a few times. So it's very awkward for him. He doesn't really know what to say. He's just kind of there. He's kind of just taking it all in. And then after this funeral, he gets approached by the girl's brother. His name is Ty in this, played by Boyd Holbrook. And Ty has this idea that his sister was murdered. So he brings this idea to Ben that they should get their vengeance on this killer that killed his sister. And Ben is kind of confused by this. He ends up talking to him and saying, well, why don't we talk to the sheriff about this? And Ty is just like, well, they're not going to help in this situation. So Ben gets this bright idea to call his work. And he tells Issa Rae in this that he has this story. And he talks about this so-called murder. And he gives her all the clues. And he's going to do this big podcast on this murder. What I really did like about this film is it has a lot of comedy. It has a lot of Patreon to Texas. They really talk a lot about different things that occur in Texas, like Whataburger is a big thing out there, and also rodeo and line dancing and cowboy boots and cowboy hats. And just being in the middle of nowhere like this, they're also big into football. So Texas Tech, there's one scene in this where B.J. Novak's character is at a rodeo and they say, who likes Texas? And he jumps up and says, me. And everybody is dead silence. And it was just a really funny scene. There is kind of a little bit of a dry humor in here, but it's done really well to the point where it's not overabundant of jokes, but the jokes hit really right here. And I think everybody really plays a role in these jokes. I also like the scenery in this. It's filmed in New Mexico, even though it technically takes place in Texas, but you get to see the desert, the different, canyons and such. It looks really nice on screen. The scenery looks absolutely beautiful. You're definitely in the middle of nowhere, and they do a really good job of capturing that. Also, this being a mystery thriller film, it really is a good investigation here. You're really trying to figure out what happened to this girl, and you're trying to piece all the clues together, and it's really done really well. I also like Ashton Kutcher's performance in this. He basically plays a music producer in here, and he's signing these different artists and such. And he did a really good job with his character. You don't see him in movies really at all, so it was really nice to see him on screen. And then I was also surprised by Dove Cameron's performance in this. I thought she did a really good job. I like that this film has a centralized message to it. A lot of times we watch films and they don't really have much of a message. It's just kind of mindless entertainment. This film has a lot of different messages. The first message of being with law enforcement. In this film, Ben is trying to investigate this so-called murder. And when he's investigating this murder, he feels like the law enforcement really isn't helping him. And you see that because he's going from each law enforcement agency and they're just passing him along. They don't care about this case or what happened to this girl. Illegal drugs are another big problem in this. Illegal drugs are distributed everywhere here in the United States, and we don't really do a whole lot about it. People keep dying from it. It's a huge problem, and it seems like it just gets passed along and passed over, and nobody's really doing anything about it, or nobody's really caring about it. So having those two main messages were really big on me enjoying this movie. And then also messages of stardom, being fixated on being famous. We are all into TikTok and all these different apps and wanting to be famous, followers, etc. That message is in this. And then relationships. Relationships we're not always the best at. Keeping friendships, having a love relationship, not being selfish and just thinking of others. Those kind of messages are in this film. And even political messages in this film. The political aspirations from somebody that is from New York in this. He goes to Texas and he has a different perspective on political agendas. That kind of stuff in this film, I thought it was really cleverly done. And I think that we need more movies like this. We need more movies with messages, not just mindless stuff all the time. Sadly, messages like this in a film, a lot of people will look over this. A lot of people won't pay attention to a film like this. But if you really enjoy film, and you really do enjoy watching movies in general, I really highly encourage you to watch this film. I really think that when I created YouTube and created a channel like I do and talk to you guys about films, these are the kind of films that I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about mindless stuff all the time. I want to talk about real stuff. So this is a real movie that feels very real in the real problems that we have as a society that need to be changed. And I think that BJ Novak really brings this to light here. So, as far as negatives for this film, the only really negative that I have about this film is there are a few parts where it's a little bit slow. That's really about it. I love this movie. I don't really have any flaws with it. It was an excellent movie. It's definitely now in my top 5. I'm so glad that I got a chance to check this out and even talk about it here on this channel. I'm going to give a score of this film a 5 out of 5, guys. It's an excellent film. You guys should check it out. If you don't get to a theater, definitely rent it. Definitely stream it. I definitely want to know people's thoughts on this film. I loved it. I love the messages. I love that it has humor. It has that mystery. It just has everything that I would want in a film. But thank you guys for watching this review, and I'll see you guys on my next one.